Welcome to America 2.0. This is a no-fluff podcast series to discuss what's really driving the next era of American power. Raw, real, strategic, and unapologetically urgent.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to America 2.0. Today we have Gonzalo Guillen, who is a dear friend of mine, and also he's a power player in the space of recruiting and human talent. And it's my pleasure to have you here, Gonzalo. Thank you so much for being my guest of honor and to share your knowledge and experience with my audience.
It is
Welcome.
my pleasure. It is my pleasure. Thank you so much, Tash. Look up to you, and we've had a really great connection, and I'm ready to get started. And it's an honor to be in your to be invited into your podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I know we've been planning to host this in person, but the agendas don't really match often. You're in Florida, I'm in New York, sometimes I'm in Mexico, sometimes you're traveling.
You're
So
everywhere. You're Miss Worldwide. I don't know. You're always out in different countries, I see. So yeah, but you know what? It's technology has allowed us to connect, and I'm happy to be here.
Yes, exactly, right. And so speaking about technology, Gonzalo, because we're here in America 2.0, where we're looking at the different perspectives of how the world has evolved. We have these long cycles, mostly economic, and that's how we determine like the cycles. But now we also have these like social cycles, right? And with those cycles, we have a very interesting one, which is very, very tech driven. And, when you and I connected, we connected specifically because I was looking for a very, very specialized recruiter. And, just to give the audience a little warm up, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your background and your current company and what you're specializing on?
Sure, sure. I've been in the recruitment executive search space for the last 13 years. I started working for a big company called Robert Half International. Started from the bottom and then worked my way into a smaller company that grew and blew up nationwide. I opened up a market for them in Jacksonville, Florida, and did really, really well. And the life had it where that led me to entrepreneurship. So I started this business with my business partner who had been doing this for 20 years, and it's called HR Exchange. And yeah, I've been an entrepreneur and been in this space for the last we're going on 6 years now. Time passes by very, very fast. And the reason we connected was because you were looking for somebody that understood manufacturing, the manufacturing supply chain space, and that is one of our specializations. I've become a student of manufacturing since 2017, 2018 when everybody was looking at other industries. I knew that, and with President Trump coming in around that time and how he was talking about bringing manufacturing back, I started really learning back-end manufacturing operations and started recruiting from the accounting, finance, production, even CNC machinists, everything in between that deals with the operation. And that's how we connected. And you quizzed me a couple times, and you're like, okay, this guy knows his stuff, and then we created a friendship out of that. And I think it's been almost 2 years that I've known you, so it's crazy how time passes by fast.
It is. It is really. It's really interesting how time goes by. And one of the things that I'm fascinated by, not only for like about what you do, but specifically how you do it, is that knowing a little bit about that background, from starting in Robert, you said, right, like this big firm, and then opening market for another bigger firm, and then just going to your own entrepreneurship journey. Just from that, you've acquired a certain mindset that I will, in this interview probably will ask you to share with the audience. But not only your entrepreneurial journey, but also how do you help others really with their entrepreneurial journey by recruiting for them? I remember this multi-billion-dollar company CEO talking about his recruiting process. And he said something that really, really shocked me. He said, when you're starting, but you're getting to that 1 million, $10 million space, you're still operating as a startup. Like revenue wise, you might be big, but you're still operating as a startup, and every hire will affect or impact the culture of a company. So I think I think you, with your journey and your mindset and what you've gone through, you're a specialist in people, and I think business is people, right? So that's one of the reasons why I think you're going to be I mean, you are already very successful, but I definitely see your recruiting firm as a billion-dollar company
I appreciate
because you understand people, right? So how do you help other business owners in this process to match them with real talent? Like, tell us some of your secrets, if you will, in
it.
terms of like how do you make that matching?
Well, great question. Most of the businesses that we deal with are process improvement oriented. Why? I target those specific companies that are small to mid-size that are growing and scaling up. I have a lot of fun and I get a lot of joy I get a lot of joy placing people and then seeing them grow because of the people that I place. So my work or field doesn't become a job anymore. It just becomes something that is more of a hobby and I get paid for it, which is really, really nice. But I get to relate with a lot of CEOs from these companies because I'm in the same boat as well. I'm trying to also scale up. I'm trying to implement systems and processes. And one of the things that I have noticed that we all have in common is sometimes we're freaks and we want to do everything ourselves because we could do it better than anybody, of course. But then you start learning after a while, after through trial and error, and just there's only 24 hours in the day and you're not getting sleep, that you need to delegate and duplicate yourself. So that's the one common thing that I've seen with businesses. And so what I do is I take an approach of just learning the person and understanding their leadership style and kind of guiding them through change management process and auditing their operation and seeing what's missing or what's the weakest link or what leak do they have in their business and how do we cover that? What skill set is it going to take from a technical standpoint and personality standpoint that's going to allow them to cover that leak and allow them to progress. Now, Rome wasn't built in one day, so usually these things take time. But what the trend that I've seen lately, especially like in the accounting and finance field, is a merge of technology and Power BI and Tableau and creating better reporting tools. There's so many businesses that are still running very manually and they're still running on paper. And they need to transition very badly into a system that's going to allow them to streamline their business processes because if not, they're going to get left behind. Now, on the other flip side, I do see that bigger companies, although they are investing in technology, it's taking them a lot longer to implement because they're a bigger company. So I am seeing a lot of companies within the same sector grow a little bit faster because they're able to implement and see results a little bit quicker. So it's a very interesting market and dichotomy. And I think I don't know what happened, but after COVID, everything just, including time, just started rapidly going by faster and faster, and technology just keeps on growing every single day. I mean, my car drives itself, so I don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 years. Flying cars, I have no idea. So it's just technology keeps on growing. And then on the manufacturing sector, there's less, because of COVID, there's less of a workforce, and now there's less blue collar workforce, more people on the operational side that know how to operate machines and know how to fix them and know how to automate. So it's everything is the tide is churning, definitely. There's definitely a change in various different sectors.
Yes, definitely. And when you say leadership style, I really like that word because it's a very positive connotation. But oftentimes we know that what's lacking is actually leadership, right? It's like, so you
Always.
understand what is there, not what you wish was there,
Sure.
right? And you have to help them kind of like navigate. Well, you have to understand it to navigate that recruiting process and bring the right person that will be a fit for that leadership style, whatever that is, and at whatever level that is as well, right?
That's right. Or complimenting or whatever that leader, because I'm not perfect either. Whatever it is that I'm lacking, I like to hire people that can cover my leaks of whatever it is that I'm lacking so we could keep progressing. But yeah, that's a common thing, Tosh, and I'm sure you see it too in the private equity sector or businesses that are growing. We could always do it better, and a lot of people or a lot of businesses that are very profitable. Like for instance, there's this one client that I have in Illinois, $30 million roofing company. And when you talk to the guy, he doesn't have systems, he doesn't have processes. He's just trying to figure it out like everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, but it's a lot of fun. I think at the end of the day, it's human capital and connecting the right people, the right humans, the right energy, the right frequencies that's how you scale your business. You know, it's just attracting the right talent. And a lot of businesses miss the mark, but they have to create a culture where they that's welcoming and will add value, because the way the employees today, they no longer want to do a 9 to 5. That mentality is completely over. They want to feel like they're part of something bigger that they can
Mm-hmm.
contribute to and grow, and they continue to grow from within, basically. The mentality has changed, and I think it might be a generational thing, but it's an interesting market, Tosh. I'm recruiting right now for a distribution company. It's a sales assistant job, 65K in Miami. And I've been calling some of the candidates, and you know, I get people saying, "Oh, I'm doing OnlyFans and I get paid more doing that." So I'm like, "Whoa, we're in a different world now." We're in a world of gig economy, and we are fighting against, you know, there's some people that just are want to be YouTubers or Uber
Mm-hmm.
drivers, or um, I've seen more the mentality shifting to being more autonomous and more entrepreneurial in a lot of ways. So, you know, there's a big tug of war right now between employer and employee. The mindsets are so different, and I'm sure we need some sort of correction to align the two again at some point.
At some point, definitely. And I think that's what, America 2.0 it's all about. It's just like understanding uh, what has been changing and moving, and what is that adjustment going to look like. I mean, we're acting like predicting the economy, which we really can, right? But from your field, which is the people's field, I think you're in a great position to really predict the future. When I talk about private equity or investing, it's really about people.
Yeah,
When you have a company, if you don't have a great operator, guess what? Your investment's not going to be great, right? So
right.
definitely, and I see, your company, your role with a different tag, perhaps because we love titles,
Mhm.
which is like a chief of staff, right? So you really go in like into the owner's mind and try to understand them, try to see their business from their perspective, and probably even coach them through the process, because you well know that initially the system that people have, it's the name of the owners. Like, it's not the what, is the who is the system. Oh, in this case Gonzalo is the system, right? In this case Tash is the system. So getting people out of that, even with really lower middle market type of revenues, you still have them to understand that the people that they hire now might not be the people that they hire in 2-3 years, and that's
Sure.
okay. And they're going to need to have that mentality of changing people. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people are leaning towards the gig economy, because that you start with a company, and your role, the nature of your role, because of the stage of the company, might not be forever. As things are really shifting in the world with technology and everything, and companies, to your point, they're growing very quickly. Before
Yes.
getting to a $30 million company, it was like a 3 generation type of thing, when now it's just like you're there in a few years, and it's incredible and it's great. But yeah, definitely things are changing. And one of the things, Gonzalo, that like I started just like freaking out and being really scared. I don't know. Now I think I'm a little bit more excited, less scared. But it was this shift in jobs. Like what type of jobs? I'm not saying there's going to be less jobs, as you said. There's going to be different types of jobs.
Yes.
And my question is, do you see people adapting at the speed of the change of the type of roles that we have? Or are we literally, staying behind quickly?
Good question. On the C level, I'm definitely C, and what I mean by C level, it's usually ages, you know, between early 30s to 40s to early 50s. Those people are adapting rather quickly at the C level side. Not only are they understanding AI, but they're also understanding different tools and systems that can be implemented to streamline business. So those people definitely keep up to date. Those are the individuals like yourself, like myself, that are constantly reading, are constantly getting fat information, and are keeping up to date with the market. I think the typical average employee is definitely getting left behind, and usually it's really funny. It's a hit or miss. Gen Z, they're either really impressive and innovative, and I mean, here in Miami, if you ever come to Miami, and there's so much young talent that gives me great confidence in the future. But there's no middle ground. I mean, and then you have the other side of Gen Z, which is a little lazy and doesn't really want, they're technologically savvy, but they're missing the communication piece because they're so used to being on screens all the time and growing up on screens that they don't have that interaction or that interactive experience. I always tell younger folks that want to work from home, I'm like, why? You want to go to an office, you want to interact with people, you want to interact with leadership and learn how to communicate better as well. So I do feel that those kind of people are going to be left behind even if they're good with the technology, because even though technology is growing, I still think, including my business, I still have to be able to communicate very clearly and effectively with C-level or anybody, just to talk to. It's still human. We're still humans are in business, and we're not robots, and we still have emotions and everything else. And I think you still need to have that communication skill, which is very, very important. So I do feel that there's a segment in the market that will get left behind. And then you got the older folks that are just not technologically savvy. But funny enough, what I'm seeing in the market is they're hiring them because they're very steady and they'll show up. They won't use Instagram, 4 or 5 hours a day. They'll focus on their job. So it's a very interesting economy right now. I think right now everything is just trying to figure itself out. I can tell you that the South Florida market, talking to a lot of CEOs and experiencing it for myself, this year in Q1. Last year was a very rough business year, I guess, right? You can say that. A lot of businesses are down 15 to 30 to even 50%. So this year they're looking to hire, but the salaries are not up to par with the cost of living. So, and that creates a disparity, which is maybe, and I don't know, I was just reading an article about potential recession. We've been reading about this for years, that there's going to be a recession, and it never happens. But I'm now more convinced that at some point we are going to need one, so things could readjust again and shake off the dust a little bit. And there has to be some sort of realignment in the market because there's such a big disconnect. There's a huge disparity between employees and employers that something has to give. But technology is definitely playing a bigger role now more than ever, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I was reading about these phenomenon. Well, there's a few trends happening in the world, right?
All at the same time. Crazy.
All at the same time, they're
Yeah.
hitting us from everywhere. Some are really really big opportunities, and others are really big challenges, right? So, for example, we see the silver tsunami, right? Boomers retiring. That's a really interesting trend and definitely an opportunity in many fields. At the same time, that does have a challenge, which is who's going to take over. Because if there's not good operators that can come and take over, all the intellectual capital will go with them, right? So think about this for 1 second, right? Like you have, and I'm going to talk about manufacturing because I do believe that, while every industry is important in its own way, there are some industries and sectors that without them, like it's not like an accounting firm. Okay, like if accounting firms disappear, like, oh wow, like I'm gonna have to do accounting, whatever, right? But if Matt,
that you can go to. So
yeah, like I'll send it to wherever, right, for 30 cents an hour or whatever. Like it doesn't matter. Or there's gonna be software for that. Like who cares? But when we're talking about certain sectors, like specifically industrial sectors, it's troubling, honestly. It is like I get stressed about thinking like who's going to produce what we need it to be produced to exist as a society, like manufacturing, the transportation, supply chains, etc. Like we saw the disruption during COVID.
yeah.
And so that really, for me, it's like a little bit scary, in terms of who's going to take over. Now, yes, Trump, not in this term, but in his previous term, he said, hey, let's bring manufacturing back. Sure, let's do that. But first, we need to preserve what we have today, So instead of a reset, we just do like a takeover. And from there, we go. So boomers are an interesting trend, and the lack of operators to take over. But on the other side, speaking about Generation Z, we have this phenomenon. It's not a trend, it's just a phenomenon of the lost boys. And the lost boys are the men that not necessarily lack opportunities,
Mhm.
right? But rather they choose another path. Like they're playing video games, they think they're gonna be influencers, they have a lot of pressure, like social pressure, because they're the providers, but they can't provide because there's no jobs. So it's just like it's this lost generation, specifically of men, right, that also have been seriously displaced from the workforce because, okay, yeah, now there's women in the workforce, so there's more competition. Before
Yeah.
it wasn't like that, and now there's technology displacing blue collar jobs where a lot of these people without education or with trade training could actually have, and now they don't. So I totally see what you're saying. It's just like it's such a difficult time because this is the adjustment period, right? So I know we'll be successful and we'll get out of here maybe in 10 years, but right now these 10 years are gonna feel like a lot of movement and like pressure from so many sides. And again, sorry, I think that's a great opportunity for you because everything falls into the human capital side because technology will advance. It has always advanced. But how do we help humans catch up with that? And another thing that I want to bring up is the compensation models. I really like the compensation models that you have within your firm or the structure that you have within your firm, because again, it shows that you know people, like you understand how to incentivize people. And I'm sure that when you're recruiting, you probably have some word or advice on that regard to the person hiring, right? So you're
Yeah.
also helping with incentives. How have you seen those incentives, let's call it salary, benefits, whatever, changing from pre-COVID to now?
I do feel it's interesting because I feel that in pre-COVID, things were a little bit more open. And now I think that because of the market uncertainty and because of high interest rates and things like that, and because of the phenomenon of working from home and everybody wanting to work from home, the employer, and now this, at least here in South Florida or in Florida in general, I think even nationwide, because I work in other markets, the last couple of years during the Biden administration, there were mainly it was much more of an employee market after coming back from COVID. Companies were looking to hire like crazy, and people were demanding salaries, and they were getting them 20, 30K higher than what they were making before. Now it's the ball is more on the employer court, and employers are being a little bit more tight with their budgets. And the hardest thing right now is to hire for sales positions. Number one, nobody wants to work, nobody wants to cold call, nobody wants to put in the work. And usually the compensation is at a lower base. I'm a true sales guy. So for me is you could give me a 30K base, but if I see a high commission, I care more about the commission. But in today's society, I think people care more about the base and covering their needs and the commission as well too as an afterthought. So it's very, very interesting. And it's becoming much more challenging. I'll tell you one thing, back in the day, pre-COVID, it was easier to recruit. My job was a lot easier. It was easy to talk to the client, get the job requisition, and then post it. And then people would apply. Like the right people would always apply on your post. You just wait. It was easy. You would call a day. Now you have to go out and fish. You have to go out and you have to go on a fishing expedition, even for the most minuscule role possible, because you have to make sure that they can communicate well, they're technically savvy, they can fit the culture. There's certain parameters that you look for in a recruiting agency to make sure that your client is very happy, because we give a guarantee. The worst nightmare for a recruiter is to replace somebody and then you have to replace them, and I no extra charge within that we give a 6 month guarantee, so they have to stick. And if they don't stick, now we just got one fee and we're doing double the work. So we hold ourselves very much accountable to find the right individual. there's times where we feel that it's the right person and the client is happy at first and the person changes. So these are not products, these are individuals. So we try to minimize the risk as much as possible. I tell clients to do a PI. I didn't believe in the personality index assessment, but I'm now noticing that any data that you can get from individuals, it's good. You could use it to your advantage in order to recruit better. And the PI that I use, it's from a company called Criteria Corp, and it tells you their leadership. Are they autonomous? Are they passive? Are they not passive? Like it gives you really good data as to what the personality of that individual is. And I urge a lot of companies to do it and have their internal employees also take the PI, so you can kind of see a common trend in that in your data, and then find a person or replicate that person as much as you can. But yeah, it's become a lot harder, and compensation hasn't. Oh, again, maybe it's because we're coming off from a bad business year, but compensation hasn't really developed as much as we would want it to develop, unfortunately. Now on the C-level side, yeah, C-level is great. C-level,
Mhm.
it always salaries tend to go up, or they've been pretty consistent. But anything that's 150,000 down has been basically about the same the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's a really tough market for sure. I can totally see how it just got harder and harder. And I think, some of the I do think it's great that COVID enabled, you know, connection throughout the entire world. But the
Yeah.
consequences of that, and then the businesses online, and then the gig economy online, it makes people think that that's sustainable,
Hmm.
right? Versus building a career. And I also feel like all these, cultural shift into the gurus and the rich people, and just having access to that level of wealth. So I was just discussing this with my father. My father is a medical doctor. He has three different specialties. I mean, he wouldn't make any money until he was like 40. Okay.
Yeah, to
And
study the way through. Yeah,
you have to study, you have to study, you have to practice, you're practicing, and you're not getting paid for that.
right.
And but that was in every single other profession. You have to be good, maybe not in the trades, but you, like, for the most part, you have to earn some experience before you can start, earning money. Now the problem is that you earn experience in something like YouTube, and you think that in 5 years you'll have this incredible income, right? So it is something that now we have this way to compare and feel dissatisfied the whole time with what the market offers. It's not the market that it's wrong. The market has always been very similar,
Yeah.
right? But now we have this other world, let's call it the gig or digital economy, that confuses people, or that gives, not confuses them, but it gives them another opportunity that they think they have a better shot there than here. So yeah, I definitely see, how that's affecting the all the industries, especially the industrial ones.
Big time. I think, you know what? I think people today want freedom, and this is why at all levels, what's the main question that I get from a candidate? Is this work from home? Is this remote? Is this hybrid? Everybody just wants the freedom, I guess, to be able to work, make a little bit of money, and go play pickleball at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And it's funny, you've been here in Miami before. Miami is the kind of, and New York, I'm sure is similar too in a lot of ways where you live. In Miami, you could go down to Brickell at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and you'll see a guy in his pajamas coming out of his Lamborghini on a Tuesday afternoon, right, getting coffee. So it's just very very interesting where our society is today. I think there's, like I said, there's I think there's a huge disconnect, and it's made my job a lot harder the last couple of years. Like I told you, I don't rely on just putting a post on LinkedIn or Indeed. Most of us, so data, this is funny data. The last 78 placements have been through a fishing expedition, not through any post at all. And out of the 78 placements, 69 of them are women. The rest are men.
Yeah.
So it goes to show you also where men are very much lacking in the professional world. Now women, and I'll be very honest, I'll be the first one. Women are one of the best salespeople. They're now becoming one of the best C-level executives as well, and operational executives. They're very intuitive, they're very smart, and they have a good track record, and they tend to stay longer in a company. And longevity today back in the day, you would see resumes 8, 10 years in the same company. Today, it's very normal to see a resume and say, "Oh shit, she's been there in 3 years." That's longevity. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That's wow. How did she do it? 3 years, yeah. But to see mainly that, where you see mainly a lot of males, not depends on the sector. Accounting and finance has a lot of stability, but in other sectors like we don't really do much. We don't do blue collar. We do like production and operations managers. But on the blue collar side, from what I've seen, it's really bad. Like hiring warehouse talent and shipping clerks and all that stuff. It's becoming rather difficult. And so what's happening? Like I have this one client that manufactures empanadas. Um, cool product, right? And they're very
Yeah.
profitable. They revenue like around 20-25 million. Um, building empanadas, they have two production lines, and what they've had to do is they've had to invest more money in technology to use less human capital. Through technology, through robots. Now they used to have their production line used to have 25 people. That's dwindled down to 12, half. And the rest has been automated as well. And I think, and I suspect more and more manufacturing companies doing that over time because it's unsustainable. And then when they do hire human capital at that level, they don't stick, so it's turnover and that costs money over time. So they're better off
Mhm.
investing in a big, nice machine that can automate all these things for them and do monthly payment plans on it, but they're making money and they don't have to rely on that individual. They just have to rely on that mechanic now or that operator that can operate the machine. So very interesting where we're definitely heading. I don't know what these people are doing. They're probably doing Uber or Postmates or OnlyFans. I don't know, but those are the three that I keep hearing consistently, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very weird world today, for sure.
Last question, Gonzalo. I know you have an amazing podcast
Yeah,
uh, about mind shift, mindset.
sure. Yes.
And of course, I can do 4 hours of mindset here with you. It would be awesome, but I can't. So if you had a piece of advice, not for the extreme of the people doing OnlyFans or Uber or whatever, but to the people that still have a way to participate in the formal economy, what would that be? And you can split it between younger generation or older generation, but what would your advice be to them?
Yeah, don't just apply for jobs and wait and sit to get a call. Be active. So I'll give you an example. Tosh, you want to apply to X, Y, and Z company located in New York? Apply to it, no problem. But then go on LinkedIn and find out who the CEO is, who the COO is, who the HR director is, whoever it is, you know what I mean? And start sending them messages and even send them your resume. Hey, I'm very excited. Hey, this is Tosh. I saw that you're looking for X, Y, and Z position. I feel like I'm very qualified, very excited to connect with you. Big fan of the company. You've done my research. Would love to connect. And sometimes you're not going to get a call or you're not going to get a message back, but it's a numbers game. It's
Mm.
like going to the club. The more girls you talk to, I mean, eventually one's going to maybe say, yeah, I kind of like you. Let's talk, right? So it's the same thing with in the professional world as well too. So, and then my second advice would be is do not, when you go to a job interview, forget that it's a job interview. Those job interviews are like dates. You're connecting with another human being. Make sure that you ask open and do your research. Number one, do your research on the company thoroughly, but ask open and just like a date. You ask open-ended questions. You try to get to know people. Don't focus too much on just the job, as you should focus on the job and on the technical skills of the position, but focus a lot on the personality, their leadership. Questions to ask would be is what kind of leadership style does the company have and culture promote? How do you handle pressure when shit hits the fan, right? I mean, don't say it that way, but if something happens, if there's chaos within the business and challenges, How do you overcome these challenges? Can you give me an example? What are the 30, 60, 90-day deliverables that this position will have, or some of the challenges that I will face that I can cover for you? Have a very honest, authentic conversation, because that's how you're going to know if it's going to be the right position for you. Tackle it like if it's a date, like if it's a marriage. When you get married, I haven't been married yet, but I do know, reading the Bible, that you have to be equally yoked. You know, values, the foundations, they have to be very much aligned. And if that business is thinking here and you're thinking something else, yeah, you might get the job, but you're not going to last for that long. It's going to turn out to be a heartbreak. In this case, they're going to fire you or you're going to fire them. So approach interviews differently. Probably another advice I would give is maybe approach them like a sales presentation. You go in there and you're going to present a product. That product is you, and you go in there with a pitch, and then you want to ask the right question so they could also present themselves to you, and they can sell themselves to you as well. I think that's very important. That's one of the things that I've been guiding a lot of my clients to do a little bit more, to not be stuck in that 20th century way of interviewing. Like, oh, why should you work for us? That's not going to work. You know, that's not going to work at all. You have to be welcoming. You have to show why your company is one of the best companies in the industries, why they should work for you, and be more open-minded that way. So that would be my. I know you told me one, but I think I gave like 3 to 4. So
Perfect. Now, what's the name of your podcast, and where can they find you? Website or email?
You go, so the company website is hrxstaffing.com. So anybody that needs accounting, finance, we work with a lot of private equity, ultra high net worth individuals, and we're mainly a lot into the, at least for myself, I'm in the REIT space, real estate investment trust, companies that do development, construction, and manage their own assets, but they invest in other things too as well, and in fintech. So yeah, hrxstaffing.com, and then the podcast is called the Mindshift Podcast, and if you just type it on YouTube, you'll find it. And I'm gonna have to return the favor, and when you come down to Miami, I'd love to have you as a guest. It'll be my honor.
Perfect, Gonzalo. Thank you so much for being here. Love the interview. Love your style. Love what you're doing. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
God bless. God bless. Take care. Bye.
Bye.